Hey, everybody, it is Trags, Mike Petralia, back with the latest episode of the JungleRoar podcast, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official online wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Back here with James Rapien of allbengals.com, SI.com, Locked On Podcast, and anything else I'm forgetting.
You don't know what today is. Today's the big release day. Enter the Jungle comes
Oh, there we go. And wow, it's like I knew I was promoting you for something by having you on today.
That's right. Why do you think I came on, Trags? It wasn't to help you. No, I'm just kidding.
You have
every season in one book, Bengals history, Enter the Jungle.
Tell us a little bit about it before we get going.
So this was a huge project where I agreed with Lake 7 Creative, partnered with them. They've done a Bills book and a Vikings book, and they wanted to do a Bengals book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's honestly to me, it's the perfect read for a Bengals fan, whether you're a newly minted Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow fan and you're 12 years old, or you're 67 years old and you remember when the Bengals were founded in 1968, because it's quick, concise, professional photos throughout for every season, every starting lineup, statistics, all decade teams, which was fun because I was able to put those together.
Love lists, love decade teams.
It's really the perfect coffee table book for a Bengals fan. So if anybody knows a Bengals fan that thinks, you're looking for the perfect gift, I think this is it. And you can get it, last thing, Trags, at CINCINNATIBengalsbook.com.
How hard was it to put together?
It was challenging because I did a lot of the work this offseason right after we had Quinn. And so newborn plus book writing, it really meant no offseason. That was there was no offseason, there was no break. But it's really cool. I'm excited to see how, see the way it turned out. And, a lot of people, from the editors to obviously the publisher, like Lake 7 Creative, a lot of people put in work, not just me, but Dan Horde wrote the foreword for me. And
great choice, by the way.
I think he crushed it. So I'm really excited about it, and hopefully Bengals fans love it.
It's Enter the Jungle. Who's the publisher and how can they get it?
Lake 7 Creative. You can go to CINCINNATIBengalsbook.com, or this Friday, if you're in Cincinnati, meet me at Holy Grail downtown on the banks.
I was going to ask, that was my next question.
And we can have a few pops and talk Bengals before the home opener. And we can maybe give you a book or two on the way.
All right, let's get on to the business of the National Football League, the biggest story everybo's talking about and is going to be talking about, I think, this week in terms of the way it impacts the AFC and the rest of the National Football League is the loss of Aaron Rodgers. He it looks like ruptured his Achilles, his left Achilles, 4 plays into Monday night's game. And the Jets wound up miraculously winning that game 22-16 in overtime. Just a really a surreal football game when you look at it. But to lose Aaron Rodgers 4 plays into a season where the entire season was built around one guy, one quarterback. What was your first takeaway when you saw him go down?
Hopefully it's just an ankle sprain. We went through something similar with Joe Burrow, where you go through that mindset of what happened. Did this really just happen? How serious is it? All of those things. And I didn't see his calf reverberate essentially initially. And so I'm like, oh, it's his ankle. They said it was his ankle. And then you get other angles 10, 15 minutes later, and it's like, oh no. And it's a nightmare, and it sucks. Honestly, I was hoping the Jets were going to be really competitive, that Aaron Rodgers was going to bounce back after last year and be MVP Aaron Rodgers, because it would have been so good for the NFL. It would have been good for the AFC East. It would have been good for the AFC. And it would have been a lot of fun. And I think that Jets roster is really good. We saw it after he went down. The fact that they were still able to win that game, and the storyline is Josh Allen. And I know that the Jets offensive line isn't that good, but they are talented everywhere else. And so I still think they're going to be competitive, and it's a damn shame because I think they would have had a real chance at making a run with Aaron Rodgers under center.
How about Nathaniel Hackett? Now, the irony is, this is one of the storylines I thought that was very, very interesting. The way Nathaniel Hackett really kind of guarded Zach Wilson when he came into the game, didn't throw too much at him, kept the offense right around the line of scrimmage, and didn't make it complicated. And the Jets and Hackett really bet on the fact that their defense could keep them close, and then they would get, a break or two, which they did in the fourth quarter. And then you had Garrett Wilson make one of the most stunning red zone catches you'll ever see. Really, essentially darting the ball out of, sticking the ball out of midair, collecting it, and catching it for a touchdown to tie that game. And then, Jets get the turnover, go ahead field goal, and then the Bills tie the game, force overtime before the game winning touchdown. It was, I thought, a really good job by Hackett of protecting Zach Wilson in that game.
Exactly. And they have the horses to be able to do that. Breece Hall, woo-wee, looks great, was explosive. I think Dalvin Cook got what was there on his carries. And so you have that two-headed monster at running back. I really like Garrett Wilson. That catch was insane. And so I think they're going to be competitive. And if anything, and I'm not trying to overreact too much because we're going to talk about the Bengals and you don't want to overreact to them either.
Right.
But that's a bit concerning for the Bills. That game was just there. It was there for the taking. You play mistake free and it's over. You win. Even if it's ugly, 13-6, you probably win 13-6. And instead, you get the ball in overtime. You can't do anything with it. I think that the people that were saying that the Bills were going to underperform this season, and there were people out there saying that, they're feeling pretty good today. There you go. You raise your hand. And that part is concerning. Of the two, obviously the Jets are in trouble without Aaron Rodgers. But man, if you're a Bills fan today, you can't feel good about where you're at.
I told you after the season, I thought the Bills could take a step back. Does that mean they're not a playoff team? Of course not. But I just didn't feel good about what I saw toward the end of last season. DeMar Hamlin injury aside, I didn't like the way they were playing. And, even in that game against the Patriots, where they had to really win to assure their seeding in the AFC, the playoff game against the Dolphins, they did not look great, and the Bengals completely exposed them in the divisional round in Buffalo on their home turf. I thought there were a lot of red flags, and Josh Allen, man, you've got to take better care of the ball. 4 turnovers. I mean, granted, Joe Burrow turned the ball over 5 times last year against the Steelers at home, but if you're Josh Allen, you got to do a better job than that in a game that was there for the taking.
Agreed. And it's just two different circumstances. Josh Allen's fully healthy, not coming off the appendicitis. He's not 30 pounds under his normal playing weight. And that wasn't what Burrow was by the time week 1 rolled around, but his strength certainly wasn't back. So there was reasons why he struggled against that Steelers defense. The other part of this is the Jets defense is really darn good. Very. I mean, Sauce Gardner doing what he did, Whitehead with the 3 picks, and one, in Josh Allen's defense, everyone's going to talk about the turnovers. The one was a punt where Whitehead probably shouldn't have caught it anyway because it gave him the ball at the 5. Breece Hall flipped the field with an 82-yard run. But outside of that, yeah, it was a rough day for Allen. Obviously, the fumble, it just can't happen. I mean, that's all him fumbling that ball. And I know he got crushed. That's the other part of this. If you're Josh Allen, run out of bounds, slide. You don't have to take every hit. I know you're bigger and stronger than probably every other quarterback in the league. Slide once in a while.
There was a run that he made midway through the fourth quarter, and even Troy Aikman on the air was like, "What are you doing, Josh? I mean, you want to make the play, but you got to protect yourself, and you got to last the whole season."
Yes, and that's the part of this where, especially what happened to Rodgers, and I get it. Rodgers is older; he's not as physically imposing. It only takes one play. And so you got to play smart. And who knows, maybe this is the wake-up call Allen needs and is going to be just lights out from here on. But it's certainly something I'm going to be monitoring.
Okay, let's put what Joe Burrow did on Sunday in perspective and what it means going forward in the rest of the AFC. Patrick Mahomes lost his first game. Justin Herbert lost his first game. And Josh Allen lost his first game. Not saying that Joe Burrow looked great by any means. He certainly did not, and he admitted as much after the game. There's no question. To quote Joe Burrow there, anybody who watched what we put out there knows it wasn't very good. So I expect Joe Burrow to be better. But you and me were sitting next to each other, and I think we saw immediately that Burrow did not look comfortable. He did look rusty. I think a lot of coaches, Zach and Brian, were like, wanted to poo-poo the fact that he was rusty, but his throws were a little bit high. We saw that early on to Irv Smith, tight end, on the sideline throw. There was a throw to Jamar Chase that was a bit high. And it just did, to me, look like Joe Burrow needed at least that game to get his bearings.
I think you're right. It's the least accurate I've seen Joe Burrow in his career.
Yes.
And the Bengals, Zach Taylor on Monday said they left some opportunities out there. And I went back and watched, and I don't always do this, but I went back and watched. And every one-on-one that I saw, where it's T. Higgins one-on-one, Jamar Chase one-on-one, those are, anytime that's the case, the Bengals take it. It's just automatic. It's, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take the shot. Now, I'd say 98% of the time, there are situations where they don't, and they take the easy play to get the first down or whatever the case is. But usually they're all in on the shot plays. And it's because Burrow is so accurate that one-on-one is not 50-50. And these receivers are so talented that one-on-one is not 50-50. It's 75-25. And you take that all day long, especially with the chance that there's an explosive play. And so let's use the Grant Delpit pass deflection as the example.
Yep.
Great play by Delpit. It should have been a touchdown. T. Higgins barbecue chicken roasted Grant Delpit one-on-one. They were even at the 20. And if Burrow puts it at either the front pylon or the back pylon, either one, I think T. Higgins catches it, just boom. It was a breeze. It would have been an easy touchdown. And instead, it is this contested, I have to flip, turn, and try to make a catch. And Delpit did make a good play, but that's just one of the many examples. Jamar Chase on his opportunities deep downfield, it was the same. One was out of bounds. The other, Burrow went back shoulder when Chase, who it looked like did have the go route, kept running. So there's communication issues, but there was just accuracy issues. And that's not something we've seen from Burrow. So there's a lot of discourse anytime the Bengals offense struggles, offensive line, play calling, adjustments. I think they do need some answers, and we can get into that from an offensive scheme perspective. But Burrow, no doubt about it, was as inaccurate as I've seen him. And you and I both know everyone's expecting him to bounce back starting this week.
Yeah, I would expect that as well. A lot was made in game of him going to the glove, then taking the glove off in the rain. The elements absolutely impacted the passing game. They impacted the passing game both sides. Deshaun Watson looked horrible. I actually thought Deshaun Watson in some ways looked worse than Burrow, just throwing the ball. I really do. And I don't know if you agree with me, but do you?
I get your point. He struggled. No, I don't, but I get it. The Browns were able to move the ball, and a big reason why the Bengals couldn't is because Burrow was just off.
I didn't see Burrow missing wide open receivers as badly as
that's
Watson did. That's my only point there.
There weren't a bunch of guys running wide open. Right. There were guys that were open, like the Higgins deep ball, like he's open, and that's got to be a touchdown. But it's not like he had Tyler Boyd wide open over the middle of the field 8 times and spiked it to him. So I do get your point, because that's what Watson did multiple times.
Yeah, and my point about Burrow and the glove is it looked like to me from the naked eye that Joe Burrow was struggling to get comfortable. And we all know every NFL quarterback, for them to reach their full potential and efficiency on the field, especially in the passing game, there has to be rhythm, there has to be confidence behind the offensive line, and there has to be comfort. And it just looked like Joe Burrow all day was not comfortable.
He was not. He was uncomfortable. He was working with a resistance band on the sideline, which I think is interesting. But really, this game is summed up by the first play. And I was thinking about this on Sunday night. The first play, this Bengals new front, offensive line, and Burrow, it's an RPO. So has the option to hand it to Mixon. You could argue that he should have, because I think Mixon would be able to run for 6, 7, 8 yards on that first play if he hands it to him. But he has T. Higgins wide open. and Irv Smith Jr.'s late on his cut block attempt on Zadarius Smith, and Higgins is wide open. It should be an easy, probably first down. He probably catches it, turns upfield, and gets to the marker for a first down. And he gets hit as he throws. It gets deflected at the line, and it's like, oh, this is the type of day it's going to be for this Bengals offense. And there was no easy completions like that. Like, that should have been an easy completion. There was no easy completion. So look for that this week to try to get. They're a pass first team. Everyone can say run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. They're a pass first team. They're going to want to get Burrow into a rhythm early against a defense that had his number and had this offense's number a bit last season. I mean, 17 points in Baltimore. Then you struggle a bit in that, not a ton, but against backups, it's not like the offense lit the world on fire in that final game of the regular season. And then obviously you needed the Hubbard yard dash, the fumble in the jungle to secure it in the wild card round. So this offense, there's some questions about it, and it starts with Burrow. They're going to have to answer them this week.
He is James Rapien of allbengals.com and Locked On Bengals podcast. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, listen to this, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's a $150 credit in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on all the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. One more time, that's FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off your NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Back with James Rapien of Locked On Bengals and allbengals.com, part of the SI.com network. All right, James, how do the Bengals get their receivers open over the middle of the field? That's what I asked offensive coordinator Brian Callahan on Monday, and he said he didn't think that the Browns were necessarily taking those looks away. But he did say, and I found this interesting, that Burrow and the offense weren't necessarily looking in that direction. I think they've got to do a better job. One way of getting the offense on track this Sunday, do a better job of trying to find open spaces over the middle, because I thought there were plenty of them Sunday that weren't really taken advantage of.
Real quick, because we started the pod with it, Aaron Rodgers' torn Achilles is confirmed.
There we go. I appreciate it.
So brutal. Jeremy Fowler was the first to report it. That said, getting back to the Bengals, yeah, you look at his passing chart, there was nothing over the middle. It was everything around the numbers, up the numbers. It was really weird, really weird. And I don't know if it was because the Browns were just saying, hey, we're playing you one-on-one on the outside, and the Bengals take those, and it just didn't work, right? It's almost like, man, Steph Curry was 0 for 12 from 3. Well, it's Steph Curry. You're not going to tell him not to take those shots. Oh, well, why didn't he work on a floater or try to get in the paint? Or it's Steph Curry. If he's open, he should take those shots. And so I wonder if it's just that the Browns, they looked at it.
Good analogy, as good as any I've heard.
Yeah, I wonder if it is that, because the shots were there. Like when I went back and watched this, I'm like, oh my God, if Chase is one-on-one, you take that every time. If Higgins is one-on-one, I mean, there was probably 8. He threw the ball 31 times. 8 to 10 one-on-one situations, at least, where you would usually hit on the majority of those, at least half. And so that aspect of it, it's like, okay, was this just an off game? I don't want to torch the coaching staff, but here's the part of this where I do think the Bengals need to find answers if they're going to become an elite offense. And by an elite offense, I don't mean just in week 7. I mean elite offense in January and in February, which is their ultimate goal. And you've covered some elite offenses and the way they become that. And I don't think they've been that yet in the Joe Burrow era. Not elite, very good,
not consistently
explosive.
Elite.
Exactly. And that's that's part of being elite, right? Is because my expectations for this offense, they have the potential to be the best offense in the NFL. So what do you do when Joe Burrow is off? Not off like Sunday, because that's such an outlier where he's just really, really
Agreed.
off.
Agreed.
But if he's a tad off, And this is the analogy I've been using. If he goes into the phone booth to put on his Superman cape and he comes out and for some reason on that Sunday or Monday or Thursday, he's still Clark Kent. Saturday, God, the Bengals play every day this year. If he comes out of the phone booth and he's still Clark Kent, then what do you lean on? Is it Irv Smith Jr. over the middle to get him into a rhythm? Is it finding ways to get Tyler Boyd in space? Is it being creative with Jamar Chase? Like for the Chiefs, obviously we know it's Travis Kelce when he's out there. For the Dolphins, we know it's Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. It's easy to say, all right, it's Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. But if Burrow's off, how does this offense scheme easy throws? Not one-on-one go balls that Burrow makes easy. I think that's one of the steps that they do need to figure out, because he's going to have off days. Not like Sunday. Sunday is way worse than off day. It's an historically bad performance for Burrow. It's not going to happen
in really bad conditions. I don't want to sound like Zach Taylor here and, try to offer up weather as an excuse, because fans hate that. They absolutely despise weather being used as an excuse. But Zach Taylor is right. It absolutely impacted the game, and it was raining more on the field than we could sense up in the press box, James. That's what I was surprised by on Monday when I heard Zach Taylor say that was the most significant rain game he's been in the NFL in his 10 years. I was like blown, really? And apparently on the field, it was much worse. Well, when you have conditions like that, like you just said, James, you do have to find other ways to, if it's going to be the pass game, it has to be the quick pass game. And you have to throw, in cases like that, you have to take advantage of more open spaces. And what I didn't see on Sunday is the Bengals and Burrow targeting open spaces. That's what I did not see.
Sure. I agree. I think that's the aspect of it where it's like, okay, where, and I'm sure they think they have some of that in the cupboard that they either didn't use or tried to use and it didn't work, that can get them through next time. But that's the part of it. That's the wake up call where, let's say it's December 23rd, you're in Pittsburgh and Burrow's just a tick off. What do you do? Especially if the division's on the line. And I'm not saying it will be, but it might be. Let's say Cleveland's in town week 18 and the number 1 seed's on the line. And if you win, you get the number 1 seed over the Chiefs, but Cleveland's an awful matchup and Burrow's a tick off again. How do you respond? How do you survive? How do you make it through? Great offenses still find a way to get to 20 points. And so that's the part of this. The defense did
no question.
2 turnovers on the field a ton. This offense, even on their off days, should get to 20.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. Looking ahead to the Baltimore Ravens, and I asked Brian Callahan this also on Monday, how are the Baltimore Ravens different than the Cleveland Browns? Well, he said, what was interesting to me is he said they're not quite as aggressive with Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens in his second year after Wink Martindale. It's a different defensive look that they'll give, but what he did say is they don't allow space. And I found that interesting because he said the reason that's important is they get you to the ground immediately. When you get the ball, you better have made your yards, because you're not going to have a lot of yards after contact.
Yeah, I think that's what they did last year. They kept everything in front of them. They tackled right away. They limited any big plays, and they mucked it up enough. Roquan Smith is probably the second best linebacker in the NFL, like true middle linebacker. I think Fred Warner holds that title in most NFL circles, but right behind him, to me, is Roquan Smith. He's been such a game changer for that Ravens defense. He's all over. Like Jamar Chase feels him, and the running backs obviously feel him. And so this is a really good test, because the Bengals, they didn't have pressure on them going into week 1. I think the pressure was on the Browns, just looking at both teams. Now the pressure is on the Bengals this game. They're at home. The Ravens are beat up. It's against a defense that kind of had their number last year. Not always, but certainly had their number last year and was able to slow them down. It's no longer Don Wink Martindale. Don't give Joe Burrow a gold jacket yet. And that didn't obviously go well for Wink. So will it be that same type of path for Burrow where he struggles against the Ravens a little bit and then figures it out, solves the riddle, and is able to hit the ground running here in what's matchup number 4 against this defense?
Yeah, and he's had a very checkered, I would say uneven career against the Ravens. He's had the remarkable 2021 year where he just absolutely devastated the Ravens defense. And as you said, probably cost Wink Martindale his job in part, given the fact that the Ravens were blown out so ceremoniously in those 2 games. But last year was a completely different story. And I think it surprised a lot of Bengal fans the way the Ravens played the Bengals last year defensively based on what happened in 2021.
I agree with you. I think it was a surprise. And by the way, 4th matchup against this defensive coordinator, to be clear. That's what I mean by that. Obviously, he's played the Ravens correct. More than 4 times.
3 last year, first this year, correct.
And that's the part of this where it's like, all right, Joe Burrow solves these riddles. Like, I don't think Cleveland confused him the other day, by the way. I just think that they're this unique team that can pressure and make you uncomfortable and also feel comfortable guarding your receivers one-on-one. Right. So they can blitz you because they can guard you one-on-one. Not many teams can do that. So with this Ravens defense, I'm really interested to see how Zach Taylor, Brian Callahan, Joe Burrow, what they put together, because I almost expect a bounce back, and maybe even in a big way. We'll see how, if Marlon Humphrey plays. If he doesn't play, that's not your classic Baltimore defense. Like I said, I have a lot of respect for Roquan Smith, but it's not like Calais Campbell is in the middle. It's not prime Brandon Williams. He's not there anymore. 5 years ago, you'd say, man, they have horses. Right. I think that that this could be the time where the Bengals get going, and hopefully they do, because there's going to be a packed house at Paycor Stadium, and that's exciting for us. I know it's going to be exciting for the players as well.
And this is more urgent than the Bengals 0-1 start last year, because that was in Dallas, not an AFC North game. You cannot go 0-2 with a home loss to the Ravens, who would be 2-0 if they win this game. You can't do that. You absolutely, positively have to win this game.
They did it last year, where they started 0-2. And then they won 2, but then they started 0-2 in the division by losing to Baltimore after dropping week 1 to the Steelers, losing in Baltimore. And you're like, okay, well, there's no way they recover. And they did to win the division. But to your point, there's a reason no team has won the AFC North 3 straight years in a row. If you think you're going to just rally again and, oh, we did it last year, we could do it this year. No, that's not how it works. 8-game winning streaks in the regular season are very tough to happen. They're very good teams, Super Bowl champs, that never get close to an 8-game winning streak. And so the Bengals did it, including the playoffs, 10-game winning streak. You can't bank on that happening again this year. They got to get to 1-1. I don't want to call it a must win because it's only week 2. But if you're the Bengals and you're thinking number 1 seed in the AFC, you're thinking winning the AFC North for a 3rd straight year and the first team to do that.
Correct.
Sunday's a game you really need to get. Yes.
You got to have this if that's your aspiration. And I think the Bengals made it clear after what happened in Kansas City last year, and you're not going to win back-to-back road AFC title games in Kansas City. You want that game. You want to get the AFC championship. If you're so fortunate to get to that level, you want it in your building. And Sunday is a good first step in that direction. I want to get before we get back to one more plug of your book, I want to get your thoughts on some rookies who I thought really were impressive, and second-year players who were really impressive on Sunday. We'll start with DJ Turner, who really helped take the load off Chido Awuzie, because Awuzie was on a pitch count coming off his ACL.
He reminds me, and the Bengals have taken a lot of first-round corners over the years, and there were some, I don't even want to say whiffs, because like Darqueze Dennard, Kirkpatrick, they were decent players. William Jackson III had a really good second year. But when I think about what DJ Turner II has done, it reminds me of Jonathan Joseph, Leon Hall. And let's go with Leon Hall, because Leon Hall's the Michigan man. And I look at Turner, they moved him around. He played outside. He moved into the nickel and was guarding multiple different receivers. It's not like they were babying him. And he looked the part. He was tackling in space. I love what I'm seeing from him. I
I
really
mean, you
do,
don't
Trags. I
put a
think
guy
he's
like,
good.
I don't mean to cut you off there, but I'm going to. Um,
It's your
you're
pod.
gonna
I'm
if
just
you're
here.
gonna put a rookie on Amari Cooper, that tells me that Lou Anarumo has seen enough from DJ Turner, his speed, the way he uses his speed in game action, to know he won't be overmatched. Yes,
Yeah.
Cooper's going to catch a ball or two on him, but he's not going to be overmatched and he's not going to be beaten off the snap.
Yeah, I agree. I really impressed by him. I'll hit some other guys if you don't, or do you want to
Sure,
name
go
some
ahead.
others?
Rattle them off.
Zachary Carter, certainly
Yep.
think that he's taken a step
He was
forward.
number 2 on my list.
Impact on the ground is certainly standing out at number 95. And then let's just go to number 96, Cam Sample. I love what he's bringing. I mean, he made Deshaun Watson uncomfortable and certainly made an impact in the game as well. Who else you got for me?
Miles Murphy. I mean, I know he only got 13 snaps and he's still learning quite a bit, but he got 13 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he comported himself pretty well out there on the field.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this defensive line is deep, and hopefully Osai can return this week and get Hubbard. And I know Hubbard said this on Monday, get him a breather, get Hendrickson a breather here and there, because those guys, when they're fresh, and it was hard to stay fresh in that game, but when they're fresh, they are a problem. Hubbard, great against the run, and he will certainly get after the quarterback. And we saw what Hendrickson can do getting after the quarterback on Sunday.
A little bit surprised Chase Brown was inactive.
Yeah, I lost a friendly wager with Paul Dehner Jr. I'm annoyed by it because honestly, that was a game where you want your second best runner, and that was a running game.
It was,
so we'll see. I think he's going to be active moving forward. I think they're going to realize that was a mistake, because if you give him 6 carries and Mixon gets 4 or 5 more carries, you might feel a little different on offense if you were able to keep that run game and sustain it.
You got 60 seconds to plug your book one more time and tell people how they can come out and meet the one and only James Rapien on Friday.
It's called Enter the Jungle. Yeah, it's called Enter the Jungle. It is a season by season recount, summary, whatever you want to say, of the Cincinnati Bengals. It includes all decade teams, professional photographs, statistics, starting lineups, depth charts of each team. It's in depth, but it's a quick read. So if your son or daughter is 9 and loves the Bengals, it's perfect for them. And if you're 92 and you want to read about the Bengals and remember the good old days, it's perfect for you too. I think it's a quick read, an easy read, informative, and all of the big moments, by the way. Corey Dillon's rushing record, the Super Bowl teams, all highlighted. Marvin Lewis highlighted, the classic wide receivers. There's a lot of guys and great players throughout this Bengals team's history. And so they're all highlighted in the book. And you can get it at CincinnatiBengalsBook.com or on Friday at Holy Grail Banks, 7 p.m. I will be there. I would love to meet you. Come out and let's have a toast. And if you want a book, you can get one of those too.
I hope you save one for me and personally autograph it for me. You're going to do that?
I think I'm willing to do that, my man.
All right. He is
like it's a burden.
He is James Rapien of allbengals.com. Does an amazing job. I don't have to tell you that. SI.com and Locked On Podcast. Also, he is now the author of Enter the Jungle. It's a book you can get at CincinnatiBengalsBook.com.
How about that? Yes.
Did I get that right? There you go.
Did.
I paid attention, James. You are the best. Thanks for coming on and good luck with your book.
Thanks, Trags. I appreciate you.
All right. He is James Rapien. My name is Mike Petralia, Trags, and this has been the Jungle Roar podcast brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Until next week, I'm Mike Petralia, and keep that jungle roaring.